Afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So I have had quite a few requests to do a video talking about the coin shortage taking place here in the United States, and I was waiting to experience the coin shortage because outside of what I've read and what I've heard from other people, I have yet to see a coin shortage taking place until yesterday. Now, I work retail. I work at a lumber yard. I work, a hardware store. And so I work retail. So I'm constantly taking in cash and giving out change. And I had not seen any coin shortage taking place. Not from the tills, not from the bank, not from anywhere. But I've been hearing a lot about it and been reading quite a few articles about this taking place, where a number of businesses are having issues with the coins as far as being able to have or provide the appropriate change to give back to the customers after they've made their purchase. But yesterday, my boss came to me and he says, "Hey, is that offer still on the table to get some change from you?" Because, being into money and currencies and following and tracking the economy, I couldn't help but to become a coin hoarder. So I have a lot of change at my house. And when I mean a lot, I mean I got a few $100s worth. Surprisingly, I found a lot of people who said that they had 5-gallon buckets full of loose change, which I was just astonished by. I thought I had a lot of coins, and when more than one person told me that they had a 5-gallon bucket full of loose change, I was amazed by it. You can't even move it. It's so heavy. But the boss asked me to bring in a bunch of quarters, and I brought him in a bunch of quarters. We threw them through the coin counter. $120 I brought him. That was the first experience that I have had with there being a coin shortage. Now, my wife, she also works retail. She works at a grocery store, and she has said that there is quite a bit of coins that are coming up in short supply. And that's where a couple of the employees there, one of them anyway, brought in a 5-gallon bucket's worth. And so now they have plenty of coins to hand out and change. So I started doing a little bit more research into it to try and find out what's going on. And it's the same story wherever you go. During the lockdown, pandemic, banks were closing down, weren't taking in a lot of change. The kiosks, like the Coinstar machines and stuff like that, they were shut down because they didn't want a bunch of people bringing in their coins and spreading COVID around through the machines or whatever. You can pretty much pick any article you want out of the Google News feed, and they all pretty much say the same thing. And now it kind of makes sense when you think about it. Okay, so the bank shut down, they're not taking in a bunch of change. People are, for the most part, don't really spend their change, like their coins, like they do paper currency. So if they have, like, at the end of the day, they might have a bowl or a jar or, whatever to throw all their change in, and then once it fills up, they take that down to the bank and cash it in. And since the banks aren't open, people are just hoarding this change. At least that's the perceived idea behind it. Now, I'm still a little bit in denial that there's a coin shortage, right? Because when I read these news articles, I try to believe that that's the case. Like, I try to entertain this idea that this is what's happening and not just some ploy. But I keep rolling back to a ploy. I keep rolling back to, like, this is trying to discourage people from using cash, because if they can't get their change, like, even if it's just 25 cents they're looking for, and they're told that, sorry, you're not going to get your 25 cents, they will most likely not use paper currency, but instead use plastic. Even if it denies them just 25 cents, which most of the people would probably just throw on the floorboard of their car anyway and not even realize they had it. But yet, the idea that they will not get back all their money in a transaction will persuade them to use plastic, to go into a cashless transaction. Now, the demand for coins is so high right now that the mint has ramped up production. Typically, they would make, I think if I read the article correctly, it said that they would make 1 billion coins a month. And now they're up to like 1.5 billion, a little over 1.5 billion coins a month. So the production of these coins has ramped up during a time when more people are doing cashless transactions. Okay, so there's plenty of articles out there about how a lot of businesses are not accepting cash, how a lot of people don't even want to use cash because they're worried about getting the change back and have it, riddled in the corona. And they're using plastic. There is more people who are doing cashless transactions just out of safety reasons, not because they're discouraged by it or anything like that, just for the safety of it. And now this is where it really stops making sense to me, because a lot of businesses and a bunch of banks are starting to reward people for bringing in their coins. And now some of these banks I've heard of are paying up to 5 to 10% of the face value of the coins above what you bring in. So you bring in $100 worth of coins and they'll give you $110 cash in paper currency. To get a 10% return instantaneously on your money is almost an impossibility. It's like a miracle. Somehow these banks are in such desperation for coins right now that they're willing to take a 10% loss just to get them. Somehow those banks have to be rewarded for this. There is no way that these banks are going to take a 10% loss on their business just from simply transferring coins to cash without being reimbursed themselves. The coins are now being taken out of the system. Even though the mint says that they're producing 1.6 billion coins, it seems to me that coins are being hoarded by some entity out there. Now I can't prove it by any means, but that seems to be what I feel is taking place out there. None of it makes sense. Even the hoarding of coins doesn't make sense. Now, if you were hoarding, like stockpiling pre-81 pennies or nickels, a lot of it would make more sense. Because pre-81 pennies are actually worth more in weight value than they are in face value. By a lot, too. Like, I haven't checked it like recently, but there was a time that they were worth over twice the face value. There was 2 cents of copper in every single pre-81 penny. And nickels are not too far off from being worth their face value. So those are the only thing that really count as far as a hoarding mentality would go to be rewarded from, because they are what they say they are. Or in the penny sense, a little bit more. Now the idea that the bank will willingly pay more than the face value to get their hands on those coins, there has to be some sort of reward for them for it. They will not do this. It doesn't make sense from a business standpoint to take a loss on coins by doing the transfer from coins to cash and then pay 10%. None of that makes sense. So now the whole idea doesn't make sense. None of it does. In my mind, what I see is that with these coins coming out of circulation, it will inevitably force people to go cashless. They won't have any other choice. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know.